We've looked at macro level representation, by which I mean sort of big picture. How many people are in a congressional district versus a state, and how that matters for our Congress members and our senators. Now we're going to look at the macro level, sort of individual characteristics. And our representatives, we can say, are not particularly representative of the demographics of America. For example, I took this data from actually the older census data and the Congress before this one. So you're going to be working with more recent data when you do your little activity this week. But you'll get the idea here of what we're going to do. You'll just see that your number is going to be a little different. So don't worry if the average ages are slightly off or the average or these percentages are slightly different. But the average age of senators in the last Congress was 62. Average age of representatives, 58. But the population average age was only 38. So 20 years younger than representatives and 24 years younger than senators. Why does this matter? Well, if you're 62, you're probably thinking about retirement, right? How Social Security is taxed, for example. But if you're 38, you're probably a lot more worried about income tax and property tax, and maybe even paying down your federal student loans still. So you can see how different demographics can matter for your policy preferences. Now, the Senate is about 21% female, House 16%, but the population is just over half women. Non-whites, only 11% of the Senate, basically 1 in 10 of senators are non-white, only about a quarter of the House, but nearly 40% of the population. So you can see how these might matter. And it turns out that there have been studies done that show that the more descriptive representation we have, the more substantive representation we're going to have, or the better substantive representation. Hannah Pitkin was one of the first scholars to really discuss this, and she describes descriptive representation as they look like us. And substantive representation then is they vote like us. And the more descriptive representation we have, the better that is, the better our substantive representation is going to be. The more they look like us, the more they're going to vote like us. Turns out there are some studies as well that show that more descriptive representation also leads to better casework responsiveness. Now, those studies, a few of them have slightly problematic methodologies, which I'm happy to chat with anyone about if you're interested in that kind of thing, but you don't need to learn about it here. So if you are interested, send me an email, meet with me during office hours, and we can discuss that. But the big takeaway should be that descriptive representation, representatives that look like us, are more likely to vote the way we would vote and to care about the things we care about and to respond to our requests for casework. So it's important. Descriptive representation is important, and that's why you have an activity on it this week. And I really challenge you to think about how descriptive representation can lead to different types of substantive representation.